Hello, everybody. This is Melisha with Love for Life Wellness. I have done this show for almost 2 years now, and I have never had this happen. I am experiencing some extreme technical difficulties. And so, in my mind, when that happens, that means we're going to have an exceptional show today. Hopefully, I'm crossing my fingers, but Joy Strong is trying to get back on. If we cannot go live, we're going to just record the show and I will bring it back to you at another time. But with prayers and with fingers crossed, I'm praying that Joy will be able to join us live. We are going to have a powerful discussion, and I am excited for her to be a part of this show. Now, Joy, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
It feels like a big celebration to hear your voice.
Well, as I was telling my audience, because I am live, I said anytime we have these type of technical problems, that lets me know that that it's going to be a great show because it's been a struggle. So I am excited for you to be here with us, and I apologize for everyone. I've done this show for almost 2 years now, and I have had different problems. Sometimes it's my camera, so I'm not on my regular camera. So if it looks fuzzy, I am on my computer camera, which is not the best camera, but that's okay. I just want to get this show going and started. So I am excited about this show today with our host, Joy Strong. And let me just introduce myself for those that may not know me. My name is Melisha Bailey. I am a nutritional holistic health coach, the owner of Love for Life Wellness, creator of the Let Go system, which stands for Live, Eat, and Transform. I help women change their lives, change their bodies, change their mindset through nutritional health coaching. And it is my pleasure to host the Sister to Sister Saturdays. And I have guests from all around the world and country that come on, and we talk about issues that are important to women. So I'm excited today to have Joy Strong with us, and she is amazing. I sat through her. She had a challenge, and I saw her on she's in Seattle area. I can't think of her name. I can see her face. But I saw you on one of my dear friends. She was on my show. Hello, Leisha. My nurse coach, Leisha, is on today. Thank you, Leisha, for being on. But Joy is an amazing coach. She's an amazing woman. And I'm just honored that she is on our show today. So, Joy, say hello and tell our audience about you and what you do.
Thank you so much. One, I sometimes navigate complicated text. Right? We're all in this new frontier. And is there feedback? I'm hearing feedback on my side. So am I okay?
You're fine.
Okay, good. Okay, so I'm a life coach, and I help mostly people who have lost the momentum to regain their passion and their purpose, to move forward again with more ease and joy toward the goals that they want to achieve in life. I do have feedback on my side, so now I'm thinking I want to unplug my little microphone. Let me turn it down.
You might want to turn. She said there's a very bad, difficult to understand your words, so you might want to turn down your microphone.
Is that better?
It sounds like it's better.
All right. I have an external microphone, but I can unplug it. Oh, I see. Oh, no, I left it plugged into the other connection. That's why. Give me 1 second. No, okay. So maybe let's see that. In being a life coach, helping people crossroads, major life crossroads, in the big scheme of things, little tech glitches are not that big of a deal.
No, they are not.
So we just have to ride it out. But in a way, I feel like it's a good opportunity to remember, right? Wherever we show up, whatever's happening, we're also making choices about how we're responding, right? And a lot of times, most of my clients and most of the people I know, even me, we want things to go well. We work really hard to try to do the best that we can. And so then when things kind of go in a bumpy, unpredictable way, we can find ourselves panicked, wanting to regroup. And I can help guide through that. And I have some strategies today to guide through that.
Well, today is a test for me for sure. And I think I just went in and adjusted the noise echo canceling. So hopefully that helps. So I wanted to do this show because I love your energy and I love how you communicate and I love how you are on a quest to help women and help us to be, Alicia said much better. Thank you, Alicia. And you're on a quest to help us to be better in our everyday lives. And so when we decided on the topic of the show of empowering your inner strength, tell me, what does that mean to you as a happiness strategy, a happiness coach and a strategist, and what does that mean to you, Joy?
Well, the first thing, and I say this to everybody, I say it as a reminder, even though we already know it, we're already okay. We're already strong. We're already, absolutely perfect. So even when we're aspiring to better, the first thing is to remember who we are. Remember sort of our, each of us is a divine manifestation of all that we hope and all that we dream. And so getting real about connecting to that we're okay just how we are, just how we show up, messy, imperfect, whatever, that's the starting point. And I say that specifically because I know that in our world, and certainly in wanting to be more productive and wanting to be more accomplished and wanting to be more successful by whatever parameters and goals that we have, we sometimes equate like hard work and the end result, right? Like what's the end result marker? What's the goal with strength and achievement. And that's a kind of energy of persistence. And that's an energy of like, it can be at times too rigid, right? And we have to remember, like, we're actually strongest when we also remember our humanity and we bring some gentleness to ourselves. And so I would help people to look at that from different perspectives. But I would say, like, for you, Malaysia, it happens in terms of people's physical nutrition and wellness and strategies. And if people are too rigid, that's not sustainable, right?
Right.
And so it can happen, whether it's physical, it can happen in the spiritual realm, it can happen emotional, mental, work, relationships, in every way. Just as we would want to be kind and gentle to other people, if we can also remember and shine some of that toward ourselves, that's where we can stand in strength. That's where we start from our strongest place. So there's a kind of an irony in it. There's actually being more flexible, being more gentle. This is not like to just be, to give up or to be laissez-faire. I'm not saying that part of like, like, well, whatever, it doesn't matter. No, to be clear and flexible, clear and gentle, and then be able to remember at all the time that we can, as we keep looking at it, who are we? Who am I who showed up today, right now? All the things that I thought that I was and all the things that I hope to be, but also who am I right now, at this moment?
You're making me want to cry because it's hitting me on my internal, because as a entrepreneur and as a coach and as someone that wants to strive to be better for myself, to be better for my clients, and really help to change the lives of people, I really do have to remember that in all my messiness, that I am not perfect, but I am good where I am. And to remember that I am strong even when I feel like I'm weak. And I think that's where a lot of people need to have that reassurance that it may be messy, it may be ugly, but we are in power and we are strong and we are weak. And even my clients who are struggling in their health, yes, they want to get better. Don't get down on yourself, but you're okay inward as you are working to be better in all aspects of your life. Am I making sense?
Yes, absolutely. And I think also, I'll even add to that some more. There's a strength to be real, right?
Yes.
To be real, to be authentic. So it's like we're trying to figure out, just the technical issues today, right? We're not the first people that have ever had a struggle online or StreamYard or whatever. And frankly, Melisha, it's more your wheelhouse than mine. So I haven't been using it lately. I'm a little bit out of touch with what the access point was. And I see you earnestly navigating, figuring out, looking for the next solution. I'm trying to figure out, well, is it on my side? It seems it was on my side. I didn't know. But like, how do we navigate that even when it's imperfect? It's like that becomes a practice for the bigger things. And if we can kind of like, that old saying, don't sweat the small stuff, but also be real about it, right? Because it's like we are actually strongest and we're more connected when we can be authentically true, when we can say, this isn't what I want, but I'm going through it anyway. This is something I need help with. I mean, there's another subject that certainly many of my clients have had at times difficulty with, and I have had difficulties at times asking for help, but there's strength in asking for help because there's strength in just being real and knowing in the big picture of your life story, right? Of my life story, right? All these little blips along the way, they're not defining us, right? They're just giving us another opportunity and then another opportunity and another opportunity. So if we can be like curious about it and keep coming back, like, in fact, if every time something goes a little off, right, and you have that moment of whatever it might be, of like panic, embarrassment, of like, oh, this is frustrating. That's a big one for me. I have frustrating. So whatever it is, shift that to say, oh, frustrating. There might be something for me to look at differently here, right? It's not right or wrong, right? I still want to fix the problem, but it's to say all of that. Sometimes it's very unconscious, but all the inner feeling and sometimes dialogue that's like, oh, whatever form it takes. Sometimes it's just a feeling of I'm embarrassed or I'm overwhelmed or I'm frustrated. Sometimes it's a story in our head of, why don't I know how to do this? Why does this always happen? Some other dialogue that's not productive. If we take the first inkling we have of that, right, to notice it and go, oh, that's interesting,
Mm-hmm.
right? It can also help us get back to the task, but in a way that when we're curious, it gives us some new perspective. So it's like, I love what you said at the beginning, that when something's not quite going right, that's the sign of something really powerful to come. That is an amazing reframe. And that can really be true. So if we lean into that, every time we see, right, when something is like, oh, that's not what I expected, but we assign a value, we assign a meaning. So like, let's assign the meaning that, wow, what if that could be something even better?
Even better. Wow, Joy, I'm getting chills because everything you said is just so powerful and profound. But what I like, what you said, is to be our authentic selves and to be who we are. And because that's who we are. And then to really dive into our inner self. So maybe give us some tools and talk about the power that we have on the inside and how we can be happy and and let our authentic self be without hesitation. And really, at this point, I'm older, so at this point in life, I really don't care what you think of me, or you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to be that way, but as I've gotten older, I'm just like, I am who I am, whatever, accept me or don't. But sometimes people have a hard time letting people in and being able to be their authentic self. Why? And why is that such a struggle for so many people?
Well, that's a good question. I'll start with that piece. And I think that it's probably always been true, but today, with so much information being bombarded at us and having to absorb information really quickly, I think that whatever our general, collective attention span has been, it's getting shorter and shorter. So in that sense, there's good things about that. It's not all bad, right? Because we're getting more access to connection, and we're getting like a lot more ideas flying around quickly. And so we're able to advance the discussions when we want to. But one of the downsides about all of this inundation of, frankly, technology, but the information that goes with it, is it has a tendency to reinforce people making quick judgments, right? And that can be not a good thing. Mm-hmm. So whether it's on a personal level of just making an assumption about someone and misunderstanding instead of listening and asking what they're really saying, but just jumping to a conclusion, or worse, even, that's bad enough. But sometimes that even translates into larger scale stereotypes and judgments that shut us apart from each other in ways that are destructive and dysfunctional. So I think, we're all in this new frontier of it's the Aquarius age, and, the technology and the way that it is, and this kind of global access to communications, which is in some ways really great, huge possibilities. But I feel like we're collectively going to need to decide some new ethics around how to navigate that, so it actually boosts humanity individually and collectively, so that we're not, using it as ways of tearing people down. We're using it as a ways to grow and expand and learn and elevate and kind of bring our whole world and our whole society into greater maturity, including emotional maturity, right? Intellectual, emotional. So, it's normal in that way, that I think we're all kind of contending with it. I've also, someone else once said to me, and I think it's really true, that when women hit a certain age, so, by the time we're in our middle of our life, we stop apologizing and stop caring in some ways, because culturally, and again, society, women in particular, and this may be some men also, but, people who are socialized to be caring and nurturing sometimes have been taught to do it at the expense of taking care of ourselves and speaking our own truth and not wanting to hurt anyone's feelings. But there comes a time where certainly was true for me. It can, might be true for other people listening today, where we kind of decide it's not worth the energy anymore. I have to just be real, because it's not sustainable. So there's something in us, like emotionally, biologically, that just kicks in, like enough of just trying to make everybody else happy all the time, right? Like I can't just always be worried about every word that I say, and if you understood it the wrong way, right? So it's like, I think I actually had this conversation with you, Melisha, when we first met, in a way, like this.
Yes,
way of, like,
we did. We had this conversation. We did.
Make it real, right? So in that sense, what does that mean? Well, for everyone today, like, who might be listening into this call or might be listening to the recording, start from the place of just being centered with that you're okay, know that you're okay, and trusting and remembering that. And you don't have to apologize even when you make a mistake. Not that it's bad to apologize, because it's not, but you don't have to feel that any mistake that you could make, or any thing that you could say or do or not do, is somehow a fatal flaw. It's not. So put it in perspective. And in that, I would say, as we listen, and we all do, we get bombarded with the advice and the ideas and the feedback and the criticism of the world, if you can take all of it with a grain of salt and take all of it with a new perspective, and instead of when you hear any idea, even this one that I'm telling you right now, of, try this, instead of saying, yes, I'm going to try it, or no, I'm going to not try it. Nope, that's not me. And those are options. You could also consider maybe, right? Maybe, like be curious. Like, what if I were a person who would try that? And then put your own positive spin on whatever the advice is. What if I were a person who wouldn't do that, even though I usually always, worry about what people think or whatever it might be? What would that be like? And give us permission and just curiosity to contemplate something completely beyond your usual comfort zone and sort of beyond the space that you're living now, to expand, right? To just grow, stretch a little bit, right? And see what that might bring.
And that's scary sometimes. I have somebody that says women are brought up to be nurturers for others, thus forgetting to take care of themselves. And I know I was in that place, and I know a lot of women I know are in that place. And so we forget to take care of ourselves, and then the problems start, and then the issues start, and then we're like trying to figure out what to do. And so right. A lot of those things, does that begin with our belief system and our attitudes about who we think we are and who we think we should be to others, and not focusing and feeling the guilt of focusing in on ourselves? What do you think?
Absolutely. I think it's very enmeshed in our identity and our values. And those are established when we're very young, and they can still change and evolve over our life, but they're set up very young. So usually, because where we get the most feedback is from our actions. Mm-hmm. So when we're doing, we're embodying, we're being, but like in a dynamic way that interacts with someone else, that's when we get the feedback. We decide at a very young age, usually by the time we're in school, if not before, that certain actions and certain ways of interacting with others are favorable or not. And we start to compose who we think we are, right? Like, I'm going to be a good girl, right? I mean, I don't know how many other people have been in that like headset, right? And it's kind of like a lifelong way of, I don't want to cause a problem. So then that has a whole lot of other limits with it, even though it comes from probably a good place, right? It's not a bad place to think, I want to be a good contributor, I want to be, but it can be limiting over time. And so then we want to be able to shift that and look at that and not be in a box because of it, especially when at different times in our lives. And for women in particular, there is research about this. Carol Gilligan, many, many years ago, did lots of great studies about girls by the time they hit puberty, like right around 13 or so, started really withdrawing in school. They'd been outspoken as kids will be, just like the boys. There was no real gender issues. And again, this is really a long time ago this was established, but in that sense of a kind of cultural norm of the way historically girls had been treated differently than boys in classrooms. Mm-hmm. By the time, certainly junior high school came around, the girls were getting overshadowed and quieted down and not really stepping into their full expression. Absolutely. And I hope and have to believe that that's no longer completely true, but there's still evidence of it. There's still truth in it. And certainly for those of us who were little girls way back when, decades ago, in some ways we're still recovering from it.
Yes, absolutely. And the thing is, we're still recovering from it, but a lot of people don't even realize that they're recovering from it. Right. And they don't realize what has happened to them and why. And that affects how we think in our belief system, don't you think?
Yes. And that's actually how I started my whole business. When I started, my companies are Joyful Ease companies, with the idea that by looking at who we really are and honoring the truth, the authentic strengths that want to come through us, the authentic qualities and talents that are hidden sometimes, even from ourselves, we can actually be more successful with ease, with more joy, with more ease, with more simplicity. It's not about having another list of things to do. It's not about fixing that you're doing things wrong. It's actually about kind of just tweaking and refocusing on how can you be more yourself, and how do you be more true to that in a way that you wake up every day ready to go, and suddenly life is an adventure again, and things are falling into place. Not that everything's perfect, but just that things are a lot easier.
So what about when you are in conflict about who you really want to be or become, and you know that your family, your friends, or society may frown on who you want to be because it's not within another person's realm of what they think is acceptable, but it's acceptable to you. Does that make sense to what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And you just hit on what is the number one block when we strip away everything else that is really holding people back. And what happens is, to put it simply, we do certain things to get to that revelation, that conflict of part of me wants to get along with my family, let's say, or go along with what people expect. It's part of you wants to conform to that, or is in resistance to what you think is being projected on you, however you want to look at it from either side. And then there's this other part that just really wants to come through, of like this inner dream and hope, and sort of how does that come through. And so we'll usually take some steps to get to that piece. But if you know for sure, well, part of me wants this and part of me wants that, well, then that's a good place to be, because we can navigate by being curious and saying, you could say to yourself, even if you thought of these issues as if they weren't related to you, like you pretended it's not you, pretend it's a friend of yours and they're dealing with these two situations that you know really well, start asking yourself, what are the common denominators, and start creating this third possibility. Right? There's a way to bring together, and I'm not saying you have to accommodate the other people's desires for you. You don't, but there's something in there that is speaking to you, or you wouldn't be hung up on it. Mm-hmm. So if you could dissect it a bit and just say, so what is it in there that like I would want? And what is it in me that I want? And like keep going and creating this third option that's really in between. Those are two different sides. That's where you come to some wholeness. And that's where you get the opportunities to take the new steps in that direction of more expression, more truth. Right? Even if it's only secretly for yourself, really.
I was going to say, and then a lot of times when you do that, you do it afraid. But I have a comment from somebody. They said, do you think that due to the way that women of today are becoming much more successful because they are challenging some social mores? And the comment says, women in their 50s and 60s are becoming driving forces within this economy. And then Susan says, start with curiosity. Yes, just get curious about what is this in me. Those are all great comments.
Oh, yes. And actually, to be fair, I will have to do a little shout out to all the ancestral women for all of time. The truth is, older women, and it's frankly, I think been older for a couple of reasons, including after they've raised their kids and their families and taken on less of that nurturing role. But it's older women that have kind of moved society forward in many ways for many, 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 many generations. So in some ways, it's just more visible now, although maybe not visible enough, but it's starting to be more visible because we're living in a time where, at least in the US and in many parts in the world, not all, but many parts in the world, women can have their own business. There's actually still a few places where you can't if you're a woman. So it's kind of interesting that we get to see that way of kind of embodying leadership. But make no mistake, women forever have been leaders in all the social mores and other advances. And it's interesting now because the more visible I think that we each get to be, both collectively and individually, the more we get to claim not only for like moving the direction of the standards publicly, like, you know, it's very different to be in business right now than it was even 10 or 20 or 30 years ago. There's just different ways of what's normal in terms of, you know, what business, the limits of it. But we also start to get to be able to be more fully expressed individuals.
Do you think men get intimidated as, especially in 2020 or 2021, as more women in their 50s and 60s are really moving into a different realm? And then these men, it's not like your mother of the 50s. Do you think that intimidates some of our men? Or how do you think men see us as we're moving forward and becoming the fullness of who we were really meant to be?
It's a great question. And I think we have to, if we're going to have that discussion, like we have to have men in on the discussion, really, people who identify as male. I mean, I hesitate in a way. I mean, I know I get to speak as a woman because that's my identification. It always has been. And that's, you know, I get to claim that as anyone else does. But I hate to speak for all of any group. I don't speak for all women. And I certainly don't speak for men per se, but I do think in some way, you know, the coach in me would say, we will always find who and what we need to work on to some extent or need to connect to. So are there men who are or will be insecure by women's success? Of course. You know, there are women who will be challenged by other women, you know, so yes. And if we're finding that, then there's something to be healed. And it might be there's something to be healed in us individually because we're hitting up to it. Or it might be we're helping grow our local, whether it's community, like we're the ones who are kind of in that leadership opportunity, or maybe we're helping grow generationally our family and our legacy by helping to navigate and harmonize, right, these issues, because it's kind of like a growth spurt, right? So it's not always simple, but you know, but you have, you know, what's it like for you, Alicia? I mean, you're growing your business and you're like got all this exposure, and is that off-putting or intimidating to anyone?
I think my husband, as wonderful as he is, he made a statement and said that I am different than the woman that he married. But we've been married 26 years ago. And I think I have gone in a different direction than what he thought I would go. And it's not a good or bad thing. And that's why I'm like, and so I think some men, as the women are moving forward and progressing and really becoming themselves, some men may say, oh, this is a different person than who I thought I was going to grow old with. And
Bravo, you're not stagnant. I mean, like, so therein lies an opportunity maybe for the cultural education of men that, you know, newsflash, women are people too, and people evolve. People are not like, if you're actually never changed in 26 years, then I would say there's a loss there, because like you're still dynamic and evolving, and that's part of the human experience. But
and the thing is, I did not evolve until later in life, and now there's no going back. And so and it's all good. And then with my granddaughter, I can see myself really wanting for her to not have to wait till she's older to really be herself, to really hone into who she is, and so that she can be her best self and be empowered in her beliefs of who she is, how she fits into society, which I think a lot of women in my age weren't allowed to do that.
Right. I agree with you on that. I think there was a lot of pressure to conform more than to differentiate.
Absolutely.
And so then that has drawbacks. I mean, it's not all bad, but it's not all good. So we're shaking that up now.
We're shaking it up. I have a comment that says, I feel that some men are intimidated by a woman's success as leaders, thus the differences in wages between men and women for the same job. And so for women, that's an empowering place to be a success, especially as leaders in this world. And I think at this point,
Well, that's actually the issue of traditional business still not being up to speed in terms of valuing women who contribute. And that's both by the amount of money that women are paid compared to men, but also by access to positions, right, compared to men. That still is an issue. And in some ways, traditional business it's traditional. So it's slow to make the change because the, powers that be, if you will, the previous authority doesn't want to change if it suits them. So it's like they kind of come along fussing and fighting along the way, not necessarily volunteering. I mean, there are exceptions to that. We have some new businesses, big businesses that are trying a different approach.
Yes.
But in a way, this is what really is exciting about entrepreneurship.
Yes.
So women are the rock star entrepreneurs now. And that's actually been true for a number of decades. I think it was, let's see if my memory is good. I feel like it was in the mid 1990s, so date myself a little bit. But when I was compiling research on this, I don't know today's stats, but I know back then things had swapped over so that not only were more women starting their own business back in the 1990s in the US, at least, but it was women that started businesses. More women were starting than men in entrepreneurship, and women had a 75% chance of success back then compared to only a 25% chance of success for the men. So women were actually going by leaps and bounds and staying in business for years and years and building business. And at the time, the experts that were studying that and compiling the information had attributed to generally more women were willing to be cooperative and flexible in their approach to business, and compared to people that were more rigid, were more likely to fail. So it's like the entrepreneur arena is becoming the leveling of the playing field, and women that are making a lot more money and getting value and getting the higher positions like CEO, it's in entrepreneurship.
Wow.
Which is exciting.
I'm excited to be in the entrepreneurship realm. And I'm excited for this part of my life. One of the things that we had talked that was on our list to talk about were strategies that may work for others, may not be best for you. And it's important to claim your power by connecting to and trusting your own inner wisdom. So talk a little bit about that. How do we, claim our power and connect to our own inner wisdom as we are navigating all these changes that are going on in traditional families and entrepreneurs and jobs and just women excelling in particular?
I think there's a million ways to do it. And I don't think there's any end, but I'll throw out a few ideas. So essentially, whatever we're drawn to, right? It's like whether it's, you could see someone on a little TikTok video that comes through your news feed and you say, oh, that's interesting. You just literally ask yourself, what is the energy I feel? What is it about that that's interesting to me? How could I bring more of that excites me into my life, that makes me happy into my life, that makes me interested into my life? How is it that I could be more, you fill in the blank? It could be energized. It could be even whatever you're aspiring to. I want to be more consistent in showing up for myself. Well, let me look around and see, where can I get inspiration? Maybe I have no idea. So I'm going to look outside and, I like to look at nature. How could that inform me? Like literally start wherever you're at. And I know many people listening on this show will have ideas already of what they like, but start with where you're at and what you like, and then say, how do I connect the dots between even if I think, oh, I'm not getting up and doing what I want to do. I'm not being productive right now. I don't feel strong inside, but I like to look out at the trees. Well, look at the trees and what can you learn from that? And how do I bring that back? Oh, I actually heard someone, a poet talking about, she made this whole beautiful poem about a tree. And it was like, wow, she's talking about the strength and the bark and the details. And just by, as a poet, really looking at that deeply, there were so many metaphors. And if poetry is not your thing, that's okay. And if trees are not your thing, that's okay. But like, what's in front of you trying to get your attention
Yes.
is some sort of opportunity, because everything's an opportunity, right? Everything. Now, I want to add to this that aside from, as we said at the beginning, being more curious, right? Put more maybes into your mind, right? If I can say nothing else, but insert a maybe where before you didn't even know there was a possibility. Just insert maybe. Maybe this thing could help me. I have no idea why, but maybe this is happening today to help me, to boost me, to enthuse me, right? Put that maybe into your mind. And then I'm going to add to that, today we are in the energy of the new moon. And if you're interested, but even if you're not, consider, if you've like, I don't care about that. Okay, fine. Maybe it could be of interest to you that the season right now of the new moon is for self-discovery. It's for going deep. This is the time of the year to really find self-awareness and find what wants to be mastered. So there's something to tap in. And that's my hack with my clients. Everybody that's worked with me knows me. Like, I find in nature, and in particular in the astrology and in the seasons of the sky and the sun and the moon and all of the symbolism, there's so much rich food for thought. And I can help, with anybody in a quick time, say, okay, here's what this looks like for you, not to tell you who you are, but so you can consider where you didn't know, your quietness was a strength, or your speaking out was a gift, or something else that you just didn't think of about yourself in that way. It's just to consider.
I love it, because a lot of us don't consider or even say maybe in our own lives to expand who we are, and who we are becoming.
Right. So the becoming is important, the dynamic unfolding. But when we're taught, and it's not bad that we're taught it, it's part of our survival to assess things quickly and to make a quick judgment and say, yes, I do this. No, I don't do this. Or yes, we sometimes can run the risk of staying stuck in what already happened. Well, maybe I never danced when I was a child, but that doesn't mean I can't dance right now today, right? Maybe I never did a video before, or but that doesn't mean that you can't do that tomorrow. Maybe, just maybe, what if anything were possible and you just had a blank slate and you really could just consider any new action. And to tell you the truth, when people are at their lowest, and sometimes we all are, right? I feel like that's my signal. You get a clean slate today. So, all right, if nothing feels like it's working, great. Let's see what you could do. Anything. Let's try something totally different and just consider it, right? Like, try it on in your mind, in your mind's eye, and start with that imagining, and who knows what's possible.
Well, I did something. My husband's like, I can't believe you did that. I went to Costa Rica a few weeks ago and I went ziplining. Now, this is a person that wouldn't even get up in a hot air balloon. And so for me to go ziplining, that was daring and adventurous, and it awakened something in me that not to be afraid to be who I am or do what I want to do. And so I think when you're talking about the new moon and discovering and finding that inner person, I think that's me. And I think that's where a lot of us are at right now.
Yes. It is so exciting. Ziplining, that sounds fabulous.
And I did it afraid, but I did it. Well, actually, I wasn't even that afraid. I just think being able to be different and be open to be doing something that is not normally who you are or what people expect of you, I think that's a good thing. So
Yeah.
you're talking about the, without going too deep, because I don't want to go too long. We've already been on 45 minutes and this has been amazing. I mean, I could talk to you for 2 hours, Joy, because you've got such insight, and I may be calling you to help me too, because I feel like I'm at the point, and I'm sure some of the women that are going to be listening, that we really want to delve into discovering and being curious and saying maybe and not being afraid to move forward to who we really are. And so what is, you said the moon and tell me a little bit about what's going on in the atmosphere today.
Yeah, so if you sign up for my for my blog, you get all the moon updates for the new moons and the full moons. And the full moon usually gets the most attention because that's like the big celebration energy, but it's actually the new moon that's like the beginning and planting the deep seeds. And so right now there's one new moon for each sign each year. That's pretty much how it works out. And this new moon, which was exact on Thursday, all the details are on the blog, was in Scorpio. And so if you know anything about the sign of Scorpio, and for those of you who don't follow astrology, the signs, when we say signs, think of it as an archetype. Okay, it's not like if you're a Scorpio, this isn't you exactly, but whether you're Scorpio sun sign or not, everyone has some of this somewhere in their life, right?
Yes.
Like literally in their chart. So the Scorpio archetype, represented by the scorpion, is about the deepest emotion and delving into the deep psychology of people and finding out like what motivates us. And it's particularly an emotional sign, and it's also an intuitive sign. It is the most psychic sign. So those realms of delving into, deep depths of personal, emotional, even sexual, frankly, energies become more prevalent right now. And this is the time of the year. It's always the same time of the year, the end of October into the middle of November. This is when we have Halloween and the veils get thin. So if you're into like following paranormal information, that coincides with Scorpio energy. It's like the archetypal getting into deep things. And if you're not into that, it would coincide with meditating. It would coincide with prayer work. It would coincide with being more quiet and still and just taking that sacred space to oneself to kind of like regroup and look inward and really, no matter what else is going on in the world, remember the quiet spaces within oneself. So that's this time of the year. Next month will be different, and the month before was different. But with the new moon, if you can kind of sync up to it, just like you want to sync up with when it's summertime, you want to do the things that are like sunny and outdoor. And when it's wintertime, you might want to hunker down a little bit. If you sync up with this new moon, you would want to set some intentions for how you want that to show up in your life, like what you would want to discover about yourself. What are some things, intentions that you would add into your days to be able to enhance that? And again, I would think of it's emotional, but also you can think of it in a spiritual sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Beyond just that piece, and really there's a lot more information if someone wants to sign up on the blog or just go to the blog.
And the blog, and I didn't get a chance to really look at it, but I did. I think it's on my browser, but yeah. I will put the link in our show notes for anybody that would like to look at the blog.
It's under Joy Strong Wisdom. If you could put the link up, that'd be great. It always has, just if you go to the blog page, it's always the most recent one, and it's also on the front of the homepage. If you scroll down, and you can get a little link to it. But besides that piece of the new moon, whether it's this Scorpio moon or not, and again, the energy is good for personal exploration and kind of like in a spiritual, kind of sacred way, like a quiet, meditative way. In general, any time of the year when we're looking to kind of shift and get beyond where we've already been, think in terms of other areas of life. So to oversimplify it, if you're really like a heady, in your mind, you read everything and you want all the details and you're like the researcher and it's all about the mind, maybe shift into read some poetry, get into some emotions, watch a powerful movie about something, like get into a different realm to think about how could that inspire me, how can I bring a different kind of energy into my life. If you're always into the physical and I'm worried about or focused on my nutrition and my exercise routine, which is great, we don't want to let that go, but maybe I can add to that, what's my spiritual practice? What's my quiet? Maybe I'm going to add, okay, I'm hydrating more. That's on my list. That's always on my list. But instead of just like hydrating more, well, I want to have a contemplative cup of tea every afternoon. You just add that other dimension. And so when we switch from, who we've been up until now, and we start to grow into these other arenas, think about mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. That's the best way. For sure, right off the bat, which one you're strongest at and which one you avoid. Well, even if you said, I have no idea what I do to be more fill in the blank in that area. Okay, great. Be curious.
Be curious. I love that.
What would somebody else do? Yeah. Like, what would somebody else do? It's you're not really going to change your life. Like, it's not that you have to, give up the things that you love, but it's a way to expand.
I like that.
Right.
And I think as we're getting ready to go into a new year, and I think this is a great time to expand and be curious and to set those intentions of how we may want to be a year from now. You know what I'm saying? November 2022. How do we want to be? How do we want to show up in the world? Think about how we are now, how we can maybe shift and make some changes, but also be open to continue to make those changes and shift as we are progressing and moving along in life every day.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And take it to the next step when you think about, and you could think, you could imagine, you could write about, who do I want to be? What are those changes? We do this. I encourage people to do it every month with the intentions, do new moon intentions once a month and kind of regroup. But however you contemplate it, the next step is to feel into it, right? Like imagine, how would it feel to be that? Not just like, well, I'm going to, I'm going to be more
a checklist. I'm going
right?
to do
yes. Yeah. But then it's like, whoa, what if I feel it? And like get into the celebration and the excitement. And in a way, it's sort of like bringing back your youthful vitality, right? Like being excited. I'm sure it was for you, even if you were nervous about ziplining, like then it's like, what's the feeling right before you do this thing that's like so outside the box, right? You must have felt like a kid again.
I did.
And then that fuels us, right? That like brings us huge energy that we can soar.
Well, I have Leisha said 2022, I am embracing the next level of life. And I think that's great, Leisha. And I think that's where most of us are, accepting what comes next and embracing it.
Let me add, so speaking of 2022, I think we all learned from 2020, sometimes things don't go as we plan, but I really want to also point out that one of the things about being curious and flexible is, that old sentiment about divine timing, like, it's God's time. So just because we plan, and I do, for me, it's the core of what I do is planning for the month ahead, planning for the year ahead. Like, do that. Please do that. It's fabulous. But at the same time, hold the maybe. So if it doesn't go on time, or it doesn't go exactly how you hope, right? Or it doesn't start at the exact minute that it should have, just hold the possibility. As Alicia, you said at the beginning, it could be even more wonderful. It could be even better. So don't give it up if it's your dream. If it's something that you really want, right? Don't be constricted if it doesn't fit in the calendar page the way that you hoped. Just know that wherever you are right now, you're that much closer to where you want to be, right? And every opportunity is like another launch pad. It's another stepping stone on the way. And enjoy that journey.
Enjoy the journey. And well, I'm going to do a side note because we're going a little long, but that's okay. My birthday is 12/22, and I'm looking at 2022, and I'm in all into numbers. And so all those twos flying around there, that's something, isn't it? What do you think?
Well, 22, you're born on the 22 days. So definitely twos are about balance and harmony. And it's sort of like about finding the flow, but it's also about balance and harmony and relationships. So connections important to you. But if you're born on the 22 day, this is more the numerology than astrology. But for you in particular, Alicia, that's a master number. So that means in this lifetime, you have been, kind of gifted the opportunity to master perfect balance and perfect flow and connection of relationships. And when you have it, it's like you're actually showing the way for the rest of us because you're embodying this mastery. And when you have it, you actually, the process for you, this isn't true for everyone with a 2, but with a 22, that process is cultivating a strong foundation and solid strength for you and the people around you. It's actually, that's part of your gift, your whole life, not just next year. Next year, they'll have other variations depending on some other things. I can look at your chart for you after, but let me ask you, so the 22 day, it depends on the year that you're born. And I don't hold every single year in my head because it would be too much, but you are at the cusp. So
I'm on the cusp of Sagittarius and Capricorn, and I was born in 1961. I will be 60 this year.
Did you ever look it up or have someone do your chart to see if you are in fact Capricorn or Sagittarius?
I think I'm straight in the middle. My mom used to be really into astrology.
Yeah.
I don't follow it that much like I used to, but I think I'm just really straight in the middle a little bit. I think I'm more Capricorn than Sagittarius, but it's really all right down the middle.
You have to be one or the other, but again, everybody has all the signs in their
I think chart. I'm more Capricorn than Sagittarius then.
From what I know of you, and again, I have to look at the chart to see more, but from what I know of you, and even the way that you're saying, my bet would be that you're Capricorn, but you also get the influence of the sign before you, right? Because it's kind of like a progression thing. So most likely you're like all this strong Sagittarius energy. You probably have some other planets in Sagittarius. You certainly have Sagittarius in the chart because everybody does. And then you probably actually have the sun. So the core of your being is in that successful, practical, like wanting to accomplish Capricorn. I'm going to guess that's probably where the sun is for you. But in that, well, I'll look at your chart for you later, and then I can give you some what the
we'll have to do. I think I may need to hire you, Joy, to do some work because it's interesting to me. We'll have to do some deeper inner work.
I'm actually doing, which you might want to join in, and maybe some people on the call would want to join in. It won't be officially out until the day after Thanksgiving, but or I think maybe, I think we're still saying Thanksgiving or Indigenous Peoples Day or whatever it is. So forgive me if that's not the right word, but in the US, the big sale the next day, I'm actually putting out a workshop. And so the workshop is Mastery of Your Time. I think the title might change a little bit, but essentially it's going to be me coaching just in a 3-hour process of everyone that joins in. It's really inexpensive. And you can get like the format of what are the key themes and what are the key dates to watch for coming up for you to plan ahead. So the idea of it is that people can pull out their planner and start jotting down some key ideas. And again, this is definitely not to box anyone in at all. It only becomes food for thought, for inspiration. And I'm all about always to expand you, never to limit you. There's never anything. If someone says it in a way that like, oh, well, you can only, well, you have to do this because you're this or that, I think that they don't understand the possibilities and the complexity that's around, right? It's like, no, everything's possible, but here's a couple of suggestions just to use as a prompt to inspire.
Wow.
So that's fun for me. I love to do that.
I love it. I love it. Joy, I could talk to you forever and ever and ever, but this has been very eye-opening. I hope the ones that were listening or on replay go back and listen, because I know for me, I'm going to have to listen again, because you had so many nuggets of great information, Joy. And I appreciate you taking the time to do the Sister to Sister Saturday show. And I am going to make sure I get your blog, put your blog and your information in our show notes. And if anybody wants to join, I'll make sure you give me the link to your new offer that's going to be happening the day after Thanksgiving, because I think that'll be something that I would like to enjoy. I think it's just, don't be rigid, but just giving people a way to think differently and to expand. And I think that's all we need. That's all that matters in this life, So
and enjoy the process. Just have fun with it, like
yes,
you only live once, like just roll a little bit. But
yeah.
I'm so honored to have been here, and I'm so glad we got this time. It's really been fun.
Thank you, Joy. And yes, I had someone said they wanted to know about the Black Friday event. So I'm sure we're going to get more people and for the Black Friday event, and I'll be happy to advertise it for you, because I think it's masterful of what we can think for our, as we make plans, and not be so rigid in our plans for the future, but at least think about, not just go through life willy-nilly and whatever happens, but to formulate a plan and then be flexible to when the things change, So.
Right. Well, I hope it's kind of a hack. Like it's a way of getting to you quickly and easily, like some of the key ideas. So the people that really like to plan and not miss anything and like make the most of like our productivity, you get that. But then it's like you get it so that you can actually be more fluid and just like relax a little bit and enjoy the process. So I've decided, because it's the thing that comes up the most with clients is, what, let's just do this as a workshop so we can mastery of time, and then you can take that and relax. It's going to be great. Like you're going to be able to achieve all you want to achieve, and also really have fun along the way when you can trust that you have, a little bit of guidance and a little bit of direction of what the best opportunities are.
You hear that, people? Let's be guided to our best opportunities. And I think this program is going to be real. This challenge is going to be great. So thank you for that. And I will be a part of it. I'm looking forward to it, because it's something I think I need for my life going forward. So we'll have to have a side. I'm going to contact you, because we have to have a side conversation, because you said something that I didn't think was true for me. But when you said it, I've never been a big planner or anything like that. I've always kind of go with the flow type of person. But as a business person now, I have to be more I have to think a little differently. So, and it's kind of taking me out of my comfort realm, but it's all good. So, but anyway, we're going to go. It's been over an hour. Thank you, Joy, so very much. Thank you for all putting up with the technical difficulties. But I knew that this was going to be an amazing show. And it was for me. And if you're watching on replay, we've got some hearts out there. Susan Ostrom says, can you post about the Black Friday event? Yes, Susan, we will post about the Black Friday event.
I actually don't have a link. I'm going to set up the link. So that will be, I'll probably have it done this weekend. So I'll get it to you as soon as I have it. But in the meantime, if someone wants to sign up, you'll have the blog links immediately to attach here.
And I'm going to put the blog in our show notes because I think I have it up on I've got all these browsers open. So I think it's open, but I will put the blog in our show notes.
if you haven't seen my blog before, I'll just mention this. I
Yes.
do have, there's different sections of it. It's not too long, but and within it, I always have journal prompts that are relevant for the month. So it's like, that might be something of interest. You know, again, if you don't really care about the astrology, you could like just look for the journal prompts, or you could just go right to the part of how it affects you if you know your sun sign, like whatever. It's made to be kind of fluid, and there's a lot of different angles of it. So
and that's what I like about you, Joy, because I've dealt with some people that are just strictly all about sun signs and all about this, and they don't want to, you know, move away from that. So I like how you're able to help people to be fluid in how it affects them, and not just be rigid in it's got to be this way or not. So I appreciate that so much.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to say goodbye for this evening. We will not have a Sister to Sister Saturday live show next week, because I will be traveling again, and I will be in Jamaica. I can't believe I just got back from Costa Rica, and I will be in Jamaica. So we will do a rebroadcast of the Sister to Sister Saturday. And let me tell you quickly who's coming on next. I think, let me see who's coming next. I've got so many people. October. I think really, I don't have anybody for the rest of the month, just because of the holidays. I knew I was going to be gone, but I'll probably do something special for the 27th, because it's Thanksgiving as we get into the holidays. But Joy, thank you. Thank you so much for being part of my show. I really appreciate it. Take care, everybody. God bless. Have a wonderful week, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Thank you, Joy.
Thank you.